Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the opportunity to do another round of questions here. And I also want to say I appreciate the history lesson we got on the Capitol Police Board. Um, but to just be clear, as you're right, many of those folks were appointed by Republicans. This is not a partisan line of questioning at all. It's just we are the body that makes the law, and we can change that, but we've got to be able to find out where the issues are so we can get to the bottom of it. No way is this intended to be a political, as many people would love this to be a political discussion. This is not the direction that we're coming from. So I have one more question regarding the board, and then I'll move on to some other things. But Mr. Bolton, you stated earlier the Capitol Police Board is not within your purview. I understand that. But if your office does not have the oversight of the board, then who does?
I do not know that, sir.
Okay, you're unaware of who actually has oversight over the Capitol Police Board? Does anybody?
I'm unaware, like I said, sir, they're not within my purview, so that's not something I would equate myself to understand, the makeup there. I concentrate on what's in my purview.
I'd have to say that is very disturbing that either there isn't accountability over the board or who can hold them accountable, or that we don't know that. So that is very concerning to me, and I'm sure other people. So I appreciate your answer on that, but let's move on to something else. So what type of skill set does the department need to bring in to successfully transform to that entity that you were discussing about having a somewhat independent intelligence gathering and coordination? What skills do we need to bring in for that?
You need to go out and look for, we're in a DMV area that has intelligence agencies all throughout this area. We need to look for somebody who's actually embedded and knows, ingrained into that field. Even with all of my experience in that is a different and completely world that those folks have that skill set. It's not just something you pick up.
Could members, excuse me, Mr. Bolton, somebody needs to mute their mic. We've got a feedback, please. Continue, please.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. That skill set is a unique skill set, and it is something that actually has to be someone who's actually worked into that field, has kind of integrated themselves in that type of knowledge and skills and abilities. So that's the type of talent we need to go and reach out and search for, not a homegrown, internal candidates, but they have to have a skill set that they know that world inside and out and have the connections.
Do you anticipate that it's going to require cultural change within the department to actually make this happen, this transition happen?
I think the overall thing would be an entire cultural change in how we go about doing business and rethink about how we're going to go about and conduct and to achieve our absolute mission of securing this Capitol complex and its visitors, staff, and the officers.
Appreciate that. So are there other law enforcement or government entities that the department should be coordinating with and communicating with that they haven't been doing that effectively to date? And how can we improve that process?
We really haven't looked into that part. Part of our flash report's also going to look at the mutual aid agreement. That's going to probably be late summer before we get that according to my schedule I have right now. So we'll be looking at that and be able to answer your question more fully and in depth once we've completed that work.
One other question. You've talked about the need for a dedicated CDU force within the department. General Henry has recommended the possibility of a dedicated quick reaction force made up of DC National Guard members, among other options. But in your purview, and I know that we discussed this a little bit recently, but in your view, would that be necessary if the Capitol Police established a full-time, well-trained CDU force?
That's hard to do. You may always need that. That would be for the decision makers. Certainly, our recommendation within my purview is a fully dedicated, fully trained, and equipped CDU unit would certainly enhance our posture in securing this Capitol complex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no further questions.